Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the A-Side. I'm your host, Killer Bean. And today, before we start this video, I just want to thank all of you because my review of Weezer's The Beginning of the End is currently sitting at like 205 views, which is crazy. Like, over 200 people wanted to hear what I had to say about Weezer, and that just blows my mind. Thank you so much for the support. Um, really, this has been so much fun, and I'm so happy a video got some momentum and got some attention. That was my moment, and I'm very happy, and I'm very proud of myself for doing that. It's not even my best video, but whatever. I'm just happy that it did so well and that you were all so supportive. Now, anyway, today I'm going to review the 2018 hip-hop album Astroworld by Travis Scott. Now, Travis Scott is in the trap scene, and this trap sound is not one I particularly like. I think a lot of it is lazy and boring and doesn't do enough to stand out from the rest of the genre, and it all just kind of sounds the same to me. But Travis Scott is an exception with this, because I feel like he goes above and beyond in creating this kind of dark atmosphere, where it sounds very drugged out and psychedelic, at least as psychedelic as trap can sound. And I like this more psychedelic, dark, drugged out, vibey, atmospheric take on the sound. I think it works really well, especially with Travis's voice and the way he kind of auto-tunes himself and delivers himself, and the beats especially help kind of propel this sound and ideas forward. They tend to be very hypnotic, maybe a little repetitive, but in the way they become repetitive sometimes, can sometimes kind of get you in that trance kind of mood. And not all the tracks are repetitive, but some of them are. And yeah, I do enjoy this album. I think it's one of the better trap albums. Most people point to Rodeo. I have not heard Travis Scott's Rodeo, but I am familiar with Astroworld. Now, I do enjoy this album, but it's not perfect. It is far too long. Way too long than it justifies being. The first leg of the album really is pretty solid, but as the album goes on, I find myself losing interest and losing interest. To at one point, I just can't listen anymore. And I've had a lot of trouble getting through this album. That's why I've been doing this review, trying to do this album review for like a week now, but I just cannot find myself being able to get through this album. Once I get about halfway through, I just find myself losing interest and wanting to go listen to something else. Maybe it's my mindset right now, but this album starts to bore me. And I think part of the problem is that Travis just is not very interesting. He is the least interesting part of any of these songs. And I know he's going for, like I said, that vibey, drugged out aesthetic, but it bores me. And you know, it's good for the first couple of tracks because the first couple of tracks have some great features and are really unique. But as it goes on, that uniqueness starts to fade. It starts to feel a little lazy. Things start to get boring, and I start to lose interest, and I find it hard to pay attention. A lot of the songs on the second half of this album just blend together for me. Now, despite all my problems, there's a good chunk of this album, about the first 5 or 6 songs, absolutely excellent. Some of the best hip hop of the last decade, to be quite honest, including what I would say is one of the best songs of the decade, especially when you take into consideration the small field of the #1 hits we got over the decade. One of these songs is one of the, if not the best #1 hit we got throughout the 2010s, but we'll get to that. The song opens with Stargazing, which I think is an excellent song. The beat is very, spacey, and I think a lot of these songs do kind of evoke those feelings of space and staring, floating through the stars, nighttime, the certain vibe you get, kind of like I said, drugged out, psychedelic, and Stargazing does a really good job of that. And the beat switch up about halfway through is really great as well. I think the beat switch up is probably, I think the second part, when the beat switches up, is probably the superior part, but both parts are pretty excellent. This track describes what it feels like to be going on a psychedelic trip. And I definitely think it does a really good job of describing that, both musically and lyrically. Lyrically, you've kind of got that repetitiveness where he keeps saying, rolling, 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 got me stargazing, rolling, 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 got me stargazing, like rolling a blunt, rolling a joint, sipping the perp, which is, I believe, lean. And that's kind of, it alludes to that the entire time. And especially when the beat switches up, it's like everything you just took is hitting you. And I think that's a really creative idea of using a beat switch up to kind of simulate what it feels like to just be hit by all these drugs. And I just think that's good. And I think it is a very good way to open the album and kind of set the stage for what you're going to get. Very solid opener. And we go into Carousel, which is once again a very solid track. And the beat on this song, once again, is what I was referring to earlier when I said some songs, the beats were a little repetitive. But the repetitiveness of this beat kind of puts you in a sort of trance, and it sounds very hypnotic. And I think that's where this album is the strongest, when it's going for the more psychedelic, more heady kind of trancey sounding stuff. And I know I'm a wordsmith, but I really think that's where this album shines the most. And it doesn't always go towards those directions, and I think if it would have focused in on these ideas and maybe made it a little shorter, this album could have been pretty glorious. Now, this album, or this song, Carousel, has a feature on the chorus, Frank Ocean. And I love Frank Ocean with all of my heart. So this makes this song one of my favorites off the album, just because Frank Ocean sings the hook. It's very pretty. It sounds very nice. Very big Frank Ocean fan, and of course he kills it, because when doesn't Frank Ocean kill it? Let's be real. And then, track 3, It Happens. And I say this very unironically. The closest thing our generation, at least a pop song, our generation has gotten to our own version of Bohemian Rhapsody is Sicko Mode. Sicko Mode is one of the best #1 hits, if not the best #1 hit of the 2010s decade. This song is amazing in every way. First off, all 3 sections of the song, the beats sound glorious, and the beat switch-ups are amazing. The way the first beat transitions into the second beat with these, like, really weird-sounding synthesizers, blaring, and it leads directly into the next part. And I just think it works really well. And then when the kind of arpeggiated synthesizers kick in at the end to switch into the third part of the beat is amazing. And the beat on the song is amazing. The electronics and stuff sound absolutely wonderful. And this song is so ambitious for the trap sound. More ambitious than just about any other trap song I've ever heard. So it makes it like a cut above any other, kind of hip-hop song that was huge in the last decade. And I really like the fact that it's split up into 3 different sections, like a suite, like something like a Bohemian Rhapsody, or a Paranoid Android, or a Happiness is a Warm Gun. This song is going to go down in history as being a song like that, and I think it's the closest thing our generation is going to get to a Bohemian Rhapsody, but it really is excellent. And when it comes to the ambition, the features on this song, you've got Drake, who I usually am not a fan of Drake, but he kills it on this. He sounds interested for once in his life. He sounds interested in what he's doing. And you have Swa Lee here, not really singing the hook because this song has no chorus, but a part that repeats the someone said, and he sounds great. And even Travis does really good here, rapping. His flow sounds really good over this banging beat on the second verse. And of course, the third part of the song is iconic. She in Love with Who I Am. Back in high school, I used to bus her to the dance. Out like a light, like a light. Absolutely iconic, and I think this song will be played for years to come, and I think people will look back on this song as being one of the best songs of our generation, hands down. I absolutely adore Sicko Mode. And I know it's a meme, and I know, oh, Sicko Mode, Mo Bamba, very funny, but this song is legitimately excellent. Honestly amazing. I also really like the sampling on this song. I can't help but yell along, "Give me the loot!" every time it happens. And the Uncle Luke sample on the second verse of the second part is also pretty good too. A little intense part right there where he's screaming. And overall, this song just works really well. For being 3 parts, everything fits together well. It flows together well. The beat switch-ups are my favorite parts of the song. Like I said, they switch so fluidly, it's insane. And all 3 beats sound great, especially that second one I think is really good. So overall, Sicko Mode, just an amazing song. The next track on the album is also very good, not quite as good as Sicko Mode, but very solid. It's called R.I.P. Screw, talking about DJ Screw, who I'd never heard of before this song. But the vibe of the song is very sad and very dark, but it also sounds very pretty and has that psychedelic kind of feeling to it. And the singing and the crooning on the song with the auto tune, and it's very filtered and um, vocally manipulated with like electronics and stuff and cloaked in all these sounds, but it sounds just very pretty. And it's a dark sound, but I'm here for it. I really enjoyed the song. It's rather calming. You throw on your headphones and lay back and listen to R.I.P. Screw. Very solid stuff. And a lot of these songs I don't have too much to say about. They're not necessarily the most complicated things on earth, but they are listenable. They're very good. They're very kind of psychedelic for hip hop, and you know, it's just good stuff to listen to. It's good stuff. It's not bad by any means, and especially this first leg of the album. It's just very solid trap. And I don't say that about a lot of trap music. And I'm sorry if the energy's a little low tonight. Um, like I said, I just had some trouble getting through this album, and we'll see here in a minute. My other favorite song on this album is "Stop Trying to Be God," because Kid Cudi, his humming on this song when it kicks in is absolutely amazing. It's so close to you, especially when you're wearing headphones when listening to it. It sounds like Kid Cudi is in the room next to you, humming in your ear. And when you hear this for the first time, it's like the audible equivalent of submerging yourself in warm bath water. It just feels so good. Kid Cudi's hum on this song makes this song so good. Cudi, I would honestly hire him to hum me to sleep every night if I could. Kid See Ghost, of course, being my favorite hip hop album of all time, Kanye and Kid Cudi. Um, and the humming on that album is amazing. I love it when Cudi hums, and it sounds good on the song. And that's the only reason why this song is my second favorite, because of the It's just amazing the entire time and makes the song so addictive. I come back to it all the time. This and Sicko Mode I come back to constantly, for good reason. It just sounds amazing. Um, yeah, very big fan of this song. And also, which is very weird for a hip hop song, the beat uses a harmonica in the later parts of the song, which is like I said, extremely unique. I don't think I've ever heard a harmonica be used in a rap song before, but I really like it. I think it really stands out in a good way, and it's something I want to hear again. Sadly, the harmonica does not pop up again on the rest of the album, but that's okay. Now, this album kind of starts to lose me. I start to lose interest. It starts to go on a little too long. 17 tracks is quite a bit. And here we are at track 6, no Bystanders. And I think the Juice World part is pretty good. The Party Never Ends. I like that. I like the stuff with Juice World. But the repeated chants of, fuck the club up, fuck the club up, get extremely obnoxious extremely fast. And the rest of the song just does nothing for me. So, that leaves me with a pretty decent Juice World feature and some really obnoxious uh, fuck the club up from Sheck West. And honestly, the more obnoxious parts tend to overweigh the good that Juice brings to this track. Overall, I'm not a fan of this song, and I would say it's probably the worst song on the album. Uh, and after that, we get back to some pretty decent tracks. You've got Skeletons, which sounds like a Tame Impala song, because Tame Impala is on here. Now, I love Kevin Parker. I'm a pretty big Tame Impala fan. Not quite as big as I was with Frank Ocean, so it's not like enough to make me fall head over heels for this song, like Carousel. But it does sound pretty good to have Tame Impala make this beat, make how it sounds. It definitely sounds like a Tame Impala song, more so than a Travis song. And I think it sticks out in a pretty good way. Once again, Travis starts to get a little boring here. I start to get sick of him. I start to become very uninterested in him himself. But it's nice to hear Kevin Parker in the outro. And The Weeknd's also on here, which is a nice touch. So I think Skeletons is a pretty solid track. And it's followed up by another track with The Weeknd, Wake Up, which starts out with this really pretty guitar tone, and then The Weeknd starts singing. And like I've mentioned before, I don't like a lot of songs that tend to be very sexually upfront and kind of nasty about that stuff. If you enjoy it, go right ahead. I'm not like being a Ben Shapiro, WAP and whatever. These songs should exist. I'm not saying they shouldn't. If that's your thing, great. I'm just not necessarily into it. I'm more of an artsier guy myself. Um, but I think The Weeknd does a pretty nice job. I think his voice sounds really good, like always. And yeah, I I think The Weeknd is a nice touch in this song. But then Travis starts to rap, and I just get bored again. I just am not into Travis at this point in the album. And during his verse, I just beg for The Weeknd to come back. And after a second Travis verse, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time tonight. We get The Weeknd back, which it's nice to have The Weeknd back, and he closes out the song. And from here on out, man, there's not much I really like. It all kind of blends together. NC-17 is a song that stuck out as being bad. Um, why, I couldn't tell you, but it just stuck out as being particularly bad to me. 21 Savage, I've heard him on a couple of things. Also, the Gambino album. I didn't mind him too much on that newest Gambino album, but I think I'm not a 21 Savage fan because he just straight up annoys me on this track. I don't know why he has to keep going 21-21 the entire time. I think one time would have been enough to know who you are. But besides that, yeah, the only other song I really want to mention is Astro Thunder, because I think this song really nails that kind of floating through outer space theme. The beat on this is very, very outer spacey, very psychedelic, and I really, really like it. And, yeah, that's about it for Astroworld. The rest of these songs just do nothing for me. I'm sorry. None of them do. And I have a hard time getting through the rest of this album. I feel like it drags on a really long time, and I just don't vibe with it. Overall, I don't think Astroworld is the worst album of all time. I rather enjoy a lot of its ideas. I just think sometimes it goes a little too long. Some ideas don't work. Um, they should have really focused in on either the more psychedelic songs of sounds of songs like Carousel or um, or or um, or Stargazing or Astro Thunder, and maybe throw in a little more of the ambition, like on a song like Sicko Mode, which sticks out on this album greatly because it's so ambitious and so unique and so interesting. It really does stand out, especially compared to that kind of second half of the album that just blends together for me. Um, One of the better trap albums I've heard, though. I think Travis has a lot of potential. I hear Rodeo is better than Astroworld. We'll have to check it out. But I am feeling a 6 out of 10 on Astroworld. I know this wasn't the most in-depth review. I didn't have too much to say. This album left me kind of bored. I had trouble getting through that second half. Out of all my listens, I think I only got it all the way through maybe 2 or 3 times. And I've been listening to this album for a while now. Like I said, I started thinking about reviewing it like this week. My friend, who you should check out his channel, Bluma, he said you should review a Travis album. I'm like, yeah, I'm familiar with Astroworld. I've been listening to it for a little bit now, but I never really realized until I looked into it critically and really paid attention that it just gets kind of boring at the second half. And really, I never finished it all the way through, except maybe once on those earlier listens. And listening through it for this review, I had a hard time getting through it. But there is good. That the first 5 songs of this album are genuinely excellent. I think this would have been really good as like a 6-song kind of, maybe even, those first 5 songs, Astro Thunder, and you know what, throw in Skeleton and the other song with The Weeknd on it. I don't have the track listing in front of me anymore. Throw on those, and you would have had a nice little short album. This did not need to be 17 tracks long. 6 out of 10, not the worst thing I've ever heard. Pretty solid. Travis Scott, Astroworld, Killer Bean, the A-side. See you all next time.